So this is a presentation that we recently worked on. It is something that's built for a touch display. It is using some new technologies behind the scenes. So let me show you how it works. So this is the home page, more or less. However, this page here is a dashboard. And when you have a touch screen display at an exhibition or at a conference booth, you can give that to people, and people can join to the touch screen display and start navigating with the presentation. So the way it works is by you clicking, then the possible content shows up on the screen, and you can go any direction that you want. I can go briefly to meet Hunziker, I jump into the section, etc. By clicking the logo, I go back, right? Simple, not simple, but very interesting presentation in terms of how it was built and why it was built this way. However, let's say that I try to start correcting things. So we did a lot of corrections on this presentation because, as you can see, it's more or less 100 slides, which is quite a lot nowadays. And the slides are like, they are very, very different. As you see here, there are a lot of slides that are very, very different. So let's say that I want to apply a lot of corrections in that presentation. So I start working on the presentation, and at some point I remember and I say to myself, wait a minute, I wanted something else. I wanted something that I already did but deleted it. So what we start doing, we start doing undo, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. However, maybe you have been in the position where, and in the case and in the use case, maybe that was Friday evening, because most people do presentations on Friday evening, you know. So maybe that was Friday evening when you were working on that presentation and you started clicking Control Z, but at some point that undo feature ended. So not that many people know, but if you go to the, and you can, by the way, go and repeat that with me, because that is a feature that is a thing that works with any PowerPoint version. If you go there, if you go to a file, to the file menu, if you go to the options section then, and if you go to the so-called advanced tab, what you are going to notice is that there is a setting that not that many people know about that's called maximum number of undos. This setting is actually by default set to 20. That's why sometimes you hit that limit. Now, in order for you to change it, you just need to bump this number up. Depending on the version that you're using, you can go as crazy as 150 steps. I would highly not recommend you do that, because that could get very extreme in terms of the memory of your machine being used. And also Microsoft are even not recommending it. That is very rare in an official documentation to find that Microsoft are not recommending a setting to be bumped up that high, for example. Our whole team here works on 50 or 60 or 40. So the only thing that you have to do is to just type in 50 or 60. I personally work on 50. Just click OK. And that setting is in place from now on. The interesting part, by the way, something that you may have missed here, is that if you go to the options, you are going to quickly understand which options are per file level and which options are per the whole, meaning they're global options. So if you are not seeing the name of the presentation next to the option, next to the setting, that means that that setting is something that you actually, once you apply it, it is being applied to each and every presentation starting from now on. However, if you are seeing the name, see here, image size and quality, and you've seen the name of the file, that means that this setting that you're about to change is applicable and will affect only that file. Just take that in mind. So that is the setting. This is something that you can quickly change, and maybe you are not going to use it. Maybe you're not going to use it, but trust me when I say this, that if there is a moment in which you end up using it, you will be grateful that you spent, or at least that you know about this setting. So let me see the next vote. The next thing that we voted for, let me go back, go here, the post. Next was the font. Yeah, okay, let's go to the font. So this is the setting, the save and the undo setting. You can bump it up until like up to 40, 50, whatever. So then is the font, right? One of the things that we miss, and I'm shocked that people don't know still. So take a look at the presentation that we created a few months ago. This is just part of a presentation that we created for a company that's under the brand of Adecco. This is a document. It is consumed over email. It is being exported over email, and then afterwards it's being consumed as a PDF. The reason why I say this is because you can easily see that there is some text here, which in a live presentation won't be the case. By the way, how many of you, what is the biggest, let me know in the chat, what is the most, like what is the biggest in terms of slide number presentation that you have seen? Like how many slides is the biggest presentation that you have seen recently? Let me know in the chat. I will be curious to see. So let's see here. Like the biggest of them all, like what would be the most slides that you have seen in the presentation? Like, let me know about that one. Whoop. 126. That is quite a lot. That is quite a lot. This, by the way, this document is 42. Number of slides does not matter. Clever. So this one here is by default is normally it is 100 and more slides. I believe 100 or something. Number of slides does not matter, says even from our team. That is true. However, 126. So the normal thing, imagine this. Imagine that you have to change the font or to make sure that all of the fonts in your presentations are consistent. So, and you're using the same font all across. So what people do normally is they select all and try to change the font. However, if I select all of the slides, I cannot change the font, right? What then they try afterwards is they go to a slide, select all, and say, wait a minute, this is Arial, I need it to be, let's say, Reso, right? And they change it this way. Then they go to the second slide, again, Control A, whoop, again, Control A, and again, put it to Reso. However, if you have 126 slides, that could take some time. So that's why there is a better way, right? Don't waste time on stuff like that. It doesn't make sense. So the way for you to do it in any PowerPoint version is by you going on the Home tab of the presentation and clicking on the Replace feature here. Let me minimize that and put it down here. On the Replace feature here, however, you want to click on the drop-down arrow here. There is a feature that's called Replace Fonts. Still, a lot of people don't know about it. From here, what you can do is actually change the font across the whole presentation with one simple click. It is very easy to do because what Microsoft are asking you here is which font in the presentation do you want to change? In our case, Microsoft can scan that there are four fonts somewhere. However, I know that only Arial is being used in those slides that you are seeing. So I will select Arial, saying to Microsoft, hey, I want you to change the Arial font everywhere in that presentation with, and I can select any font from here. So I can go and say, let's use their own font that's called Reso, and click Replace. Now, once you click Replace, maybe you are going to wait for a bit because as you can see, PowerPoint gets into not responding state. Don't queue it. Don't queue it. That's very, very important. Don't queue PowerPoint because what it is doing right now is it's going through all of the text boxes and asking, is there an Arial? Is there an Arial? Is there somewhere here Arial font being used? And if there is, change it to Reso, change it to Reso, change it to Reso, change it to Reso. So as you can see, it's kind of going in a not responding state. We're going to wait for it for now. However, while we are waiting for it in the meantime, I want to tell you when and where this may not work. Unfortunately, in PowerPoint still, even in Office 365, which is always considered the latest and greatest version of PowerPoint, by the way, that is not responding for quite some time now. Even in that version, the replace font still is not working with two very specific things. Someone is doing something on the chat. Genius, Alexander Ivanov. I think you didn't know that, right? So please don't waste time on those things. Like, this doesn't make sense. I will just minimize that. By the way, Alexander, you can try it out in the meantime on your presentations and you'll see that it works. Now, in order for me to just give you context of where it may not work, the places where it may not work are first, the so-called smart art objects, meaning those hierarchical structures that PowerPoint still has if you go to the Insert tab and then go to Smart Art. these are still not, replace fonts is still not working with them quite well. And second, the place where it may not work also, and I can almost promise you that it won't work, is the so-called charts. Now, by the way, take a look at what happened after we waited. Take a look. The font now is red, so let's go to the next slide. See? Everywhere you see red, so take a look at before, which may be slow. Again, take a look at carefully at the font after, right? Waiting. And this is without me going and doing anything. Before, random slide. After, without going slide by slide. We had a case with a client that bought 15 module training. Each module comes with a PowerPoint presentation on average with 85 slides. So multiply that 15 per 85. And a person in that company spent almost a month making sure that their font and the font in those training materials is the one in their brand. I mean, that is insane. Instead of he or she Googling whether or not there is an option, or at least trying or asking or doing something about it. Almost a month making sure that the fonts are the same. Never do that. Use replace fonts. So again, where it may not work, tables, charts, and the labels of the data labels in the bar charts, the pie charts, and also smart art objects. So let's go back and let's kill this one. Okay, let's see which one was the third one. Oh, the colors. Okay, that would be cool. So let's go on the colors. Now let me show you a presentation. So here is one presentation here. Let me bring that up again. So here is a presentation that we did for one of our clients before. This is actually a template. It is incredible template. By the way, based on their needs, there will be a webinar coming up very soon on templates. Actually, there will be 2 series in November. Stay tuned on that. It's coming very soon. Maria, our designer, and probably me at some point will get involved to deliver that webinar for you guys. However, as you can see in this template, there is an issue. We don't have red color anywhere in that template. So many times we get into a situation of, hey, can I pick a specific color so that my whole presentation uses consistent colors, right? Can I just use exactly the color of my brand and not guessing it through the custom colors? Many people say, hey, let's select this. Let's go to the colors. Let's use more colors. And from the custom, they start trying to figure out what exactly the color is. Now, if you are, that is not effective. Now, if you are using PowerPoint 2013, I didn't want to click that. If you are using PowerPoint 2013 or above, what you can do is use the so-called eyedropper feature. So what I can do is I can go to the colors and I can use the so-called eyedropper. By using eyedropper, I can quickly hover over any color in that image or in that logo or in that text. And by just clicking on the color itself, I will pick the color immediately without losing a lot of time. I don't have to wait. I don't have to guess. I just pick eyedropper, click on the color from where I see the color that I desire and that I want, and it's over. It's done. Now, there is another interesting area though. How would I take a color? How would I take a color if that color does not exist on my slide? Or how would I take a color if that color is also not part of the presentation, or for example, I can see it in a Google search, right? Why am I saying this? Is because look carefully. If I use eyedropper, if you look carefully up until where it works, right, you will see that it disappears here, right? It disappears here. I cannot go up. I can only choose from what is on the slide and what is outside of the slide. So I can go also from outside of the slide and choose. However, there is a secret feature here. And if I press and hold the mouse, the left button on the mouse, if I press and hold where eyedropper still works, so I'm pressing and holding and not releasing the mouse, that's very important. I'm not releasing the mouse, and I drag on top of the next slide, take a look at what happens. I can take any color that I want from any slide that I want and from any object. So I see this color and I'm like, okay, that is my color, release, and it's done. That thing, by the way, works also. That thing also works with objects outside of the slide. So if I, for some reason, want to take the color from another company, let's say, I'll get Eyedropper, click and hold, not release, and drag, take a look. Even outside of this PowerPoint, and I can go to the orange, let's say, I don't know, go to the orange and just hover over the orange and release. And I can take that quite easily. I don't know how many of you knew this. I'm sure that Eva and Chris know it because of so many reasons. But if you didn't know about that secret part of Eyedropper, let me know in the chat. How many of you knew about that? Let's see in the chat window. Is this new for somebody? Alex, is that new for you? New? Okay, so hopefully you're going to use it. Again, please don't waste time on trying to figure out the color. Just use Eyedropper, and instead, if the color is not on that slide, you can always pick it up by just pressing and holding and dragging the mouse. Very, very easy. So, which one was the next one? Let me see. The colors, the transition and the table are not voted. Okay, so I'll choose then one. So let me show you the table first. So many people present tables. How many of you present tables? How many of you have created presentations where there are tables involved? How many of you present tables? Let me know in the chat. What do you guys think? Or how often do you see tables being used in presentations? Come on, let's go. Let me know in the chat whether or not you see tables. Every single one? Okay, Tony. So every single one. So do you guys know, and have you ever tried to animate a table? Meaning, do you guys know how to, for example, show row by row, actually row by row, or for example, column by column by column? Have you ever tried to understand this? Let's see, every single one. And would you use that, by the way? Would you use a trick like that in your own presentations? Like if you knew it, would that be useful to know how to animate a table? Let's see in the chat now. Would that be useful? Good idea. Okay. So maybe you have a case where you can use it. Okay, so here, let me show you something with this table. So this is a absolutely fake table for just webinar purposes. So this is a live table. As you can see, it says table design. I can still change it, etc. Now, in order for me to animate it, normally what people would do, or what people will try to do, is they will go to animations, right? And they're going to choose an animation from here. For example, they can probably choose a fade. However, what you're going to notice is that it doesn't work. The table itself shows up completely, the whole thing, and it's not showing row by row or column by column, etc. And I don't have the options that I normally have to control this from the so-called effect options. I just don't have that. That's still blocked. So can I animate a table is the question. Well, I was like 2 years ago, no, last year, I was at a conference, speaking at a conference that's called Excel Days. By the way, that event is coming up very soon, and I believe I don't know if it's free, but if you're using Excel, or if you have people around you that use Excel, I cannot recommend you that conference more. It is only for Excel people. It is a great event that's being held here in Sofia. So tell friends, as I like to say. So how do I animate a table? The way I animate a table is the following. I go to the table, and that works with any Excel table. However, the table has to still be alive. It does not, if it's a picture, it won't work. So you have to have the table being alive. So I would go and say copy, right? Just plain and simple copy. I'll go to the new slide. However, what I want to do is I'll click on paste here, and then I'll go to the paste special button. So it may sound strange, and it truly is strange, because what you're going to see, I think, will shock the people who don't know it. So if I go to the picture and I will paste the table as a picture enhanced meta file. Now, I don't know whether or not you can imagine what we are doing here, but we are pasting a table as a picture. I don't know where this is going, but to me, at least, when I understood that, that looked very strange. So I would click OK. This is the table, right? Here it is. So if that works, I can expand the table now. Let's say this way. And if that works, I can go to the animations now and click fade, and there should be some magic. However, it still doesn't work. And the reason why it still doesn't work is because you need to do even more things. I need to click on the table now. And as you can see up here, it already says that this is a picture. So it gives me the options for picture format. So I'll go to the picture. And from here, I need to move this. From here, what you need to see is something that I believe is very strange. What we need to do in order to be able to animate the table is we need to go to the group feature. And there, for some reason, the ungroup button is still enabled. I don't know why that is the case. It doesn't sound logical to me, because think about it. What are you doing? You are ungrouping a picture. What would that look like? Like, just think about it. What if I add, let's say, what if I add a picture with a dog, and then I try to ungroup that picture? Like, what does that mean? Like, would I see his ears, his head, his eyes, his body separate? Like, what does that mean? What does it mean to ungroup a picture? Yet, it is possible. When you ungroup this table, Microsoft will ask you, hey, are you sure? Are you mentally and physically strong today? And are you okay? And what you can say is, yeah, I watched this webinar very late in the evening on Tuesday evening, so I think I'm okay. So you can click yes, and something happens with the table, like something happens. However, if I go to the animations and I click again fade, it still doesn't work. It still doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is because by logic, right? By someone else's logic, somewhere in Seattle, in the area, the Redmond in Seattle area, I think it was said, somewhere there, someone said that maybe in order for this to work, you need to go to the group feature again and ungroup again. So take a look at what's going to happen. So I'll click ungroup again, and look what happens. All of the objects inside of the table are now editable as a separate object. And from here, I can edit and I can animate anything that I want. Anything is now actually a separate object. So I can say, go from here. I can slow this up, right? And this way, I can actually create an animation across my table. This is, I don't know how crazy it looks to you, but to me, at least, it is very, very strange. However, it works, it works. So if you need to animate a table, and I would highly recommend you animate tables when you have to present them, because they are normally filled in with a lot of data, at least try to animate them row by row, or at least column by column by column. Again, copy the table, paste it as a picture, enhance meta file, and then ungroup twice, and then animate it in any way that you like. How was this for those people that didn't know it? Let me know. Let me just check the poll. There is no any other answers. So how is this for you guys? Good idea. Alex, are you still there? What do you think? Wow, I'm preparing for the last demo. Anything? So anyone going to use that in the meantime? So let me go to the last one, because we're almost out of time. So what do you guys think about that thing called animating a table? Still a lot of work. Let's see the effects. Okay, yeah, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. You have to again paste it and then ungroup it twice, and then you have to animate it. But still, it is there, and if you need it, it's always there. So let me show you one more thing here that's related to the new version of PowerPoint. I'll show it to you first in a very simple way because I don't know how many of you know it. So this is a very plain and simple slide. It only has our logo. So now in the new version of PowerPoint, meaning PowerPoint 2019 and Office 365, there is a new tool or a new technology that's called Morph. That thing is a game changer. Like if you haven't seen that and you don't know how it works, this is the basic example, and then I'll show you something else. So if I duplicate the slide and then I make this logo, let's say smaller, right? And I put it here somewhere, I can go to the transition tab and just say morph. And even though you may be seeing it a bit slowly on your machine, it is completely smooth when you're presenting it live. Now, how does that work? The way it works is by Microsoft detecting the changes between the same object when that object is repeating on 2 consecutive slides. So what Microsoft is doing on this slide is asking, hey, is that logo here, is that picture here exist? Does this picture exist on the previous slide? And they say, yeah, it exists. And then they ask, okay, is there any difference between the logo on slide number 1 and slide number 2 then? They say, yeah, there is. On the first slide, it was in the center and it was quite big. On the second slide, it is way smaller in the upper right corner, right? So what they do is they say, okay, find me an animation that will do that, that will implement that change, that will help me animate that change that happened in the logo between slide number 1 and slide number 2. And they're finding the transition for us, and we don't have to do anything about it. It's just working by copy pasting objects between 2 consecutive slides. That thing is insane. So let me show you how insane it is. Someone writes in the chat, I am once with a shape over the table and morph. I animated once with a shape over the table and morph. I'm not sure I understand that one. I animated, Chris, maybe you can add a bit more detail in regards to what you exactly did. So let me guys show you something else. So here is how that can work. So let me show you a few slides from another presentation so that you know how creative you can get with Morph. So take a look at how this works. So this is the first slide. You click next, another number comes in. You click next, another slide comes in. And then you click once again, right? Another slide comes in. So now how was this created in first place? Well, again, it has to have repeating objects. So in order for this 15 to come on the slide this way and come from the slide, from this right-hand side of the slide, it needs to be repeated on the previous slide somewhere. So do we have this on the previous slide? Well, yeah, we have it. And it's actually bigger, right? It's 204 points. That's why you see it flying in and becoming a bit smaller. That was the effect that our designer came up with, which is super, super cool, right? So then on the next slide, do you see it? Take a look. This is the whole slide. So this one exits. This is now current. That's why you saw this one leaving the slide. And then we are preparing for the next one, the highest whatever. And then once we click, that highest thing is actually flying in to the slide. And the 15 goes a bit down outside of the slide and becomes smaller. And on its way out of the slide, it becomes, Microsoft finds that these objects are actually the same and says, wait a minute, find an animation for those. And it animates them this way. It is insanely cool. And it can get as crazy as you want it to go. So take a look at this one. So these are numbers all across the slides, outside of the slides. Let me show you how this works. Someone is writing in the chat. Let me see what you guys are writing. Chris, why we can just put a black or white shape over the table? Move the shape and on the first and repeat the other. Yep, that is a good idea. So let me show you how this works. So here is a slide. This is not Morph, this is just something. And then I click and take a look at what's going to happen. See? So that thing is Morph. That calculation of the numbers is happening because of Morph. This thing is happening again just because of the numbers being outside, and then we use actually Fate, but here we use Morph so that the changes in the numbers are recalculated because these numbers actually repeat all across the slides, They're just coming in and coming out. And because they are the same text boxes and the same numbers, what ends up happening is that Microsoft is finding an animation for us. Like how creative you can get with that technology is just a matter of you just trying and playing with it. One last slide that we have showed so many times, this one. So this is a presentation that won a competition from Lufthansa. Just take a look at what happens here. The clouds flying in this way, then you have fade animation, then again morph. This is a quote, then again another morph, then yet again another morph. And all of this is plain and simple native PowerPoint that works very, very smoothly, and it is extremely easy to build, because in order for me to do those clouds and to make those slides smooth, the only thing that I need to do is to just duplicate the slide, just move the clouds in the direction that I want. Obviously, that was not exactly how it was built on the previous slide, but take a look, right? And for all of the other slides, I can do more or less the same. In order for all of those logos to show up on the slide from the bottom part, again, don't forget, they need to exist. They need to exist on the previous slide somewhere. So do they exist on the previous slide? Well, you bet they do, right? You bet they do. They exist. So Microsoft sees this and says, okay, this is the starting point for those logos. And then on the new slide, they have to come here, figure out an animation, and Morph figures out an animation for you. So it is extremely, extremely crazy technology, and how much you can use it, how much and what are you going to do with it is just a matter of you being extremely, extremely creative. Okay, so time for a question, and then let's run. One question. Anyone has a question? I can answer one, and then I'll leave you guys here to have a great evening and dinner, probably. Any questions? Let me stop the sharing. Okay. Any questions? Let me see in the chat. Elisaveta, Tanya. Did you guys learn something new in the meantime? Some of you at least. Let's see. Nobody learned anything new. That's kind of interesting. Okay, did you guys learn something new? No questions. You're the best. Okay. No, well, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Any questions? Okay, so I think that you guys, I think that it was Trian who saw that one with the fonts, right? I think so. So, okay, guys, so if the presentation was very useful and I learned new things, thank you. Okay, so we were like just a few people here. However, not any thanks for showing these features. Morph plus double ungroup is mind-blowing. Yeah, it is insane thing. And again, only Morph itself makes so much sense for any organization to move to this Office 365 new way of just having the Office package, because it's a subscription offer now. It costs like $10 per month or something, but just one of the things that you get is Morph. And I don't know for you, but if you are ready to see one more thing, I can show you a secret in regards to Morph. So let me quickly show you. That one I didn't plan to show, but let me just show it to you so that you can experiment with it once you have it, if you don't have it now. So let me quickly show you. That was not planned. Let me just show you. I always like to show stuff. So let me show you something. So imagine a PowerPoint presentation. So a blank presentation. I think you're seeing the screen where you have, let's say, a shape, right? Let's say a shape. No matter of the shape, let's not waste time. I'll create a new slide, and then on this new slide, I'll create, let's say, a circle, right? Let's say. However, as you can guess, those objects here are not the same, so Morph won't work, because Morph is looking for repeating objects, and so it doesn't work, right? However, it turns out that in the newest update of Morph, which went behind the scenes, you can actually morph from one object to another, even though they are not the same. So what may happen, and by the way, this works with a ton of objects, also with pictures, is that once, in order for me to make that work, I need to go to the Home tab and go to the Arrange tab. And from there, I need to code this tool that's called Selection Pane. This is the so-called layers in PowerPoint. Many designers don't know that there are layers in PowerPoint. There are, and you can find them here. So the only thing that I need to do here is, by the way, you can easily guess that, by the way, how is Microsoft knowing whether or not objects are the same? See, it is there you have a name, and here you also have a name. This is how Microsoft actually understands whether or not the objects are the same. However, here they are not the same. And this feature was surely built by a nerd, by a geek. I personally was one of those people before, so I'm sure that was built by a geek. Why would I say that? Because in order for this to work, you have to type in first 2 exclamation marks and the name of the object afterwards. So let's say 356 labs test, right? 2 exclamation marks, 356 labs test. So I control C that. And now in order for me to make the objects the same, or quote unquote the same, I need to rename that object with the same name. So if I copy paste the name of this object, again, very important, exclamation marks. Microsoft are, by the way, internally, and we had some jokes in Redmond when we were there, calling this bang bang morph, but that's a completely different story. If I now go to transitions and I click morph, look carefully what's about to happen. So that is kind of new and I think interesting. And how are you going to use it? It's completely up to you guys. I just wanted to show it to you because I think it may be useful to some of you. So whenever you want to morph one object to a completely different one, now you are actually able to do so. I hope that was useful. I hope that you are going to try and experiment with those new things. Again, try them out, try at least one, or try them one by one in a presentation that's upcoming. See what happens, because I promise you that especially if you use Morph or if you animate a table, people will appreciate it, and your presentation will for sure differentiate from anyone else's out there. So thank you very much for joining this otherwise very short webinar. A lot more things coming up in the upcoming months, so stay tuned. And if you have any question, please let me know on this email. I'll type in my email. So if you have any question, ping me there. So let me not to Tryon, but to everyone.